Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Amid this very cold weather, Detroit's mayoral race is heating up. A number of announcements at the top of the year has expanded the pool of candidates. 8 people have emerged thus far, vying to lead the city.
WDET's All Things Considered host Russ McNamara has been keeping a close eye on the race, and he's already spoken to a few candidates. He joins Robin and me now to share what he has learned so far. Russ, welcome back to the Metro.
Hey, friends. How are you? The only thing keeping me warm right now is this mayoral race. Can you think of how cold it would be if we didn't have the mayoral race heating us up?
I mean, we already know it's so cold in the D. So,
I mean, this is someone who truly loves politics. If the Detroit mayoral race is heating you up, Russ McNamara,
I mean, it's wildly entertaining. I mean, it's been, because Duggan wasn't going to lose in other years. And so now it's wide open, and you can tell by how many people are getting in the race. We're at 8. So, how many more people are going to jump in before it's all over?
I know. And it is still pretty early in the race. So let's talk about what we know so far. Fred Durhal, let's talk about him a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of interesting. Fred Durhal, he doesn't have a high name recognition. He only won District 7 by 59 votes. So It's that was a very tight race. So his dad was involved in politics, and he got out of the state legislature in 2019. So it's pretty interesting what this guy's about.
59 votes, a 59 vote margin. That just makes me think about how impactful and important local races are, and how every vote matters. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote.
Please vote. I mean, and speaking of District 7, that's a district I grew up in. So just seeing someone coming out of District 7, it's interesting to see what his plans are for the city. What has he said about his plans?
Yeah, he likes the idea of walkable neighborhoods, and who doesn't, really? I mean, I live in Ferndale. That's the whole thing, right? Detroit only has a few spots that are really, truly walkable. And when you're trying to get around the city, if it's not completely walkable, you're talking about transit. And Durhal frames that as a way to draw people to the city is by improving transit.
When you look at most of the major metropolitan cities that are around our country, they have great regional transit and transit systems. And we're going to have to step into the future. That's going to help us retain some of the talent that is leaving Michigan, that is leaving the city of Detroit.
Can that happen without federal money, though?
It cannot. So we are going to need to have that partnership again with the federal government.
So he's looking for help from the federal government, and that is certainly a more complicated task, especially as we're watching just federal government departments being completely gutted and dismissed of. So why do you think this is going to be difficult for him right now?
Well, I mean, the Biden administration pumped in nearly $1 billion into the city of Detroit. It was a boom for the city. We got, community violence intervention programs from that, infrastructure upgrades for the city. And to be fair, during the first Trump administration, the opportunity zones, the tax breaks for people that wanted to develop, they did spur some growth in the city. So, but there's no indication that kind of program is coming from the current Trump administration. So if you're looking for raw cash for some projects, it might be difficult over the next few years.
And is he exploring other options for cash? Are there other options for cash?
Well, when we talk about other options for cash, there's a couple ways you could look at it. Durhal said he would like to work with the new governor, whomever that is. If it's one of 3 Detroiters vying for that office, and Mike Duggan, Jocelyn Benson, and Garland Gilchrist, though Gilchrist hasn't officially announced yet, but the rumbles are there. It might be easier. Republican-led legislatures and governors have been fairly stingy and distant towards Detroit in prior administrations, but Durhal wasn't exactly ruling out some taxes.
We examine all of those ways, but I think there are some other creative ways that we can use to be able to generate revenue here in the city.
And that creativity likely wouldn't amount to levying new taxes on city residents. Maybe try to get around it via other ways.
And I actually did see you interview Shawntiel Jenkins in the studio this week. What did she have to say?
She's got an interesting career path. Basically, how she got here, she was a social worker by trade, eventually considered politics after interning for the late, great Marianne Mahaffey. She became Detroit City Council president, then left to become the CEO of the Heat and Warmth Fund. When I asked her if she regretted that decision, she said no.
When I left City Council, we were exiting the bankruptcy. The 10-year plan of adjustment, by the way, was in place. So we were actually coming out of the turmoil and setting the stage for, the growth that we're now seeing.
So why come back now?
Because the next mayor is going to determine the trajectory of this city for generations to come.
Now, Jenkins says the city needs to stop focusing on just one area and putting all the resources there and then moving on to a different neighborhood.
Meaning the downtown?
Right. Downtown, Midtown, that corridor, and maybe even out towards the Avenue of Fashion, Livernois. They're between 8 and 7 Mile. So she says that she wants to be able to kind of move things around a bit and spread the wealth, as it were.
It doesn't have to be that we pick winners and losers. It should be, and that's part of why that master planning process is so important, because we can do a little bit everywhere. And if we continue to do a little bit everywhere each year, we will start to see the progress spread throughout the city.
Again, a little let on details, but then again, nothing is going to be like fully fleshed out, especially at this point in the campaign for anybody. I get the impression that she wants to work with City Council to develop a comprehensive plan to do all of this, the master plan she talked about. She just wants to make things livable for folks in the city.
We're making sure that our neighborhoods are safe places and spaces for kids, for families, for seniors. We're creating businesses and business opportunities and jobs for Detroiters throughout the city, not just downtown.
So Jenkins is leaving her position at Thaw, and Kimberly Burton has been named her successor. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, she's an interesting, candidate. She's been away from politics for a while, but given the work of like running a nonprofit in Detroit, you have to make some friends along the way.
Yeah,
and that's where, the politics side comes in it. I mean, she's a social worker. She loves that. She loves helping people. And now you have to shake some hands. You have to make some friends in this city. So far, she's been doing all right in donors. Everybody's going to need some corporate donations. She's gotten, good money from DTE Energy, who's, of course, a big sponsor of Thaw. So that relationship is there in the city. So it's quite the political gig, even if it's a nonprofit.
I'm just really interested to see whomever becomes the candidate for me, or whoever becomes the mayor, they actually do spread that wealth out a little bit more and try to figure out a master plan that helps that out. You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. We're speaking with the voice of WDET in the afternoons, All Things Considered host, Russ McNamara. He spoke with some of the candidates running to be the next mayor of Detroit. So, Russ, Shawntiel Jenkins was the former city council president. The current one is running too, correct?
Oh, yeah, Mary Sheffield. Classic politician.
Yeah.
When she started, you couldn't really say that she was going to be one of those career politician types. But here we are. I mean, over a decade ago, she was elected for the first time, youngest ever elected to city council. And it's interesting, her path. She stuck with it, and now she looks like the successor to Mike Duggan in many ways. She's got all the relationships. She's there on council now. She's basically using her leadership position at Detroit City Council to, get the things that she wants done. So you would think that, is the natural step up for her moving on to the higher office, as well as she's got the name recognition within the city to actually pull it off. So I find that kind of, interesting, the way that she works out. Now, one of the things that she really kind of talked about was improving the middle class. And we hear that a lot from Democratic politicians, like we want to improve the middle class. And I got to give it up to the folks over at Detroit Future City. They've done a fantastic job of tracking the flight of Detroit's middle class. So in the city of Detroit, the news ain't great. Sheffield clearly has picked up on that kind of messaging.
And I would like to see us invest and pour back into our middle-class families, creating more programs, more incentives and support to make sure that we're stabilizing and growing our middle class. I also think we have to continue to address affordable housing.
So was Sheffield the only one talking about the need for more and affordable housing? She wasn't, right?
No, everybody's talked about that because it's obviously one of the most glaring needs in the city of Detroit right now. Well, actually across the country.
Yes.
Because, I mean, people don't have places to live. Rents have gone up. And for, folks making the median income in Detroit and the region, you can't afford a down payment on your first house right now. So it's way different than it was, 15, 20 years ago. And now the Trump administration is planning changes to the Federal Housing Administration. So it might be rough out there. So I do have to say that Sheffield's plan was kind of Duggan-like.
We do have to do better at cultivating an environment that makes it more easier for development to happen in Detroit. There's so many barriers to entry. There's so many issues around zoning and permitting. It's just not an easy business-friendly environment for a lot of people to do business in Detroit.
Okay, so speaking of Mayor Duggan, where does he figure into all of this?
All of it. I mean, because you can't criticize him because he's still the current mayor and you've been working with him for a while. But at the same time, and he's now running for governor. And so therefore, like, you might be working with him again, but at the same time, you're a different person and you have to have your own vision. So I ran out of time with Santil Jenkins. Didn't get to ask directly, but Fred Durhal proudly stated his credentials as a Democrat, but stopped short of criticizing Duggan's decision to run for governor as an independent.
He's going to go across this state. I think he's going to have some support. And I think it'd be foolhardy to count him out.
Okay, so that's not really an endorsement.
No, but it's not a hell no either. So it's very political.
How about Mary Sheffield?
Well, I asked her where she and Duggan differed because they've worked together a ton. Like, she's been in office the entire time Duggan has been in office. So she gave me a kind of a really interesting answer.
I would probably say my attention and compassion for the social issues is there a little bit more. Not saying that he didn't care. I think that he was very operational. Let's get the street lights going, trash picked up, and that was needed. It was needed at a point in Detroit. But now that we are 12 years post-bankruptcy and we are now investing and growing Detroit, we cannot turn an eye on the fact that we still have one of the highest poverty rates in the country.
Okay, that sounds like she's planning a less pragmatic, more compassionate approach, as women tend to do.
I'll leave that comment to you two.
All right.
The compassion part, I'll say. Women can be pragmatic and compassionate at the same time.
Facts.
That's,
right.
I'll edit myself there.
And I don't want to say that Duggan wasn't worried about the social issues, but he's also the mayor that appointed James Craig as chief of police for the city of Detroit. So... and that's former Republican gubernatorial candidate James Craig. So it's a good answer, but again, another political one.
So will she endorse Duggan for governor?
That's to be determined. Are you endorsing Mike Duggan for governor?
I cannot get into that race, but I'll tell you, all of them, I am eager and I cannot wait to work with our next governor.
Okay, that's an unsurprising response. So that covers 3 candidates. There's 5 more, though.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Businessmen Joel Hashim and Jonathan Barlow and attorney Todd Perkins are in. The cash isn't there right now for them, at least in the financials. Just last night, Reverend Solomon Kinlock made it official. He had a big kickoff at the Fox Theater last night to a nearly packed house. Triumph Church boasts 40,000 parishioners, not all of them. Are in Detroit. However, that's a pretty good base. I didn't go to the Fox last night, but based on the reporting by Bridge Detroit's Malachi Barrett, his message was fairly well received. Malachi's been tracking the big money coming into this race from the outside of the city, but you get the feeling that Kinloch, maybe more than the other candidates, has that built-in grassroots support that many candidates do not. There was a lot of parishioners in the Fox last night ready to root for him.
Interesting. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, so former House Speaker Joe Tate has his formal announcement on Monday. We've been including him in the 8 because he's running. He's already, raised a fair amount of money, as you'd expect from a former House Speaker. He played football at Michigan State University.
Go Green.
I knew that was coming to you.
Reliably.
First black Speaker of the Michigan House, though. I will say that the lame duck session before Christmas was rough for Democrats. So, and he has some explaining to do there.
Russ McNamara, he keeps me calm in the afternoons. He is the thing that helps me to decompress. He's the host of All Things Considered on WDET. Russ, thank you for your reporting.
Oh, thank you guys, and I love you guys so much. And I want you to know, as calm as I sound, I'm screaming on the inside.
That's good to know. Detroit's mayoral election is in November. We'll keep you updated.
Coming up at 11, we look at the problem of homelessness, what resources are available, and what needs to happen to protect people from harm. We'll hear conversations we've had in the past, and we'll also get an update from a homelessness advocacy group.
We cover a lot of topics on this show: culture, government, climate, technology, health, and we want to know what stories matter to you most. Let us know by leaving a voicemail. Open the WDET mobile app and hit the open mic button and tell us your name and what you want from the Metro.
Stay with us right here on the Metro. This is WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.